If you asked me tomorrow to go back to Helmand, I would, 100%, which is absurd really considering everything that it's done to me.
My girlfriend at the time, she'd gone out to the shops, but she'd nipped back just to check on some washing, and there was me in the bedroom trying to hang myself.
I was just told to go into town, have a drink, have a fight, and get it out of your system.
When you're in, you're told, we'll help everyone, but they haven't. And that's why the blokes are out there, they're sadly taking their own lives.
Money needs to be spent at the front end instead of at the back end. It's not getting filtered down. They're too fat at the top.
It is 5 years since Britain's war in Afghanistan came to an end. The lowering of the flag at Camp Bastion brought to a close more than a decade of intense conflict, there and in Iraq.
I was in Camp Bastion on that morning when British forces left for the last time, and 5 years seems to have gone by in a flash. And to think that more than 200,000 British personnel served in Afghanistan during that conflict, many of which, well, in fact the vast majority of which, have gone on to live very successful, fulfilled, happy lives. But some haven't. Too many, to be frank, haven't. And I want to try and understand why that's the case, but also the role in their lives of the military charities, many of which sprung up directly from that conflict.
There is no question that Britain's military charities do vital work. For thousands of veterans, they are simply a lifeline. However, Sky News has done some deep research into how they are funded, and it has thrown up some surprising data. Because despite living in a period of peace, donations to military charities are going up. In short, they are collectively getting richer. But is the money reaching the parts it needs to? To find out, we started in the seaside town of Weymouth and spoke to some of the men who live there. Military veterans who served their country but now battle the state which sent them to fight.
This is where I keep all of my military and civilian records with regards compensation and help and my war pension. It's just reams and reams of paper that I have to go through in order to try and get something done. Every time I have to open this box, it breaks me. About my war pension.
That's Pablo Williams's life now. Stacks of paperwork kept in a box under the stairs. Hundreds of letters, each one a desperate plea for support.
I've taken 2 overdoses purely and simply because I can't handle going through all this every 5 minutes.
Not what he expected after 2 tours of Northern Ireland and service in the Gulf War, Bosnia, Afghanistan and Iraq. Bosnia, you say you discovered a mass grave. Mass
graves, yes. I think in the league of things it was only a small one. There was about 45 bodies in there. One of which was a 5-year-old girl. We managed to read the report on how she died. She'd been shot in the back of the head. The bullet had exited above her right eye. But she died from asphyxiation.
Suffocated.
She suffocated, basically. They basically buried her alive. That will never leave me. No, not at all. I can still see the the little dress that she wore, the shoes, everything.
The memories have left him unable to work, unable to leave the house alone, and on some days, simply unable to go on.
I just wish I could get back to normal. Yeah.
Pablo might feel like he's alone, but he's not. Not even in this one town. His bleak story is echoed by everyone we speak to here. They see the wealthy charities, but can't understand why the money isn't filtering down.
I grew up in Dorset, about 20-30 minutes from here, and I remember very clearly as a child the major naval base over at Portland. That's been closed 25 years or so now, but still the area retains strong links to the military. But what I have been surprised by are the number of veterans living here suffering in secret, suffering out of sight. And in that respect, I think Weymouth is a microcosm for the wider country, because they're receiving help not from big government, not from big charities, but from each other.
Welcome to the Vets Hub. Not a charity as such, but it does get some financial help from the Royal British Legion and local businesses. This is an example of something set up by veterans, for veterans, because they couldn't find the help through official channels.
It was a part-time project. We were quite happy with that, and then, you know, if you fast forward to 2018, there was 4 suicides locally, all veteran suicides. What if it had been a full-time project? You know, would they have still been here? And it's the kind of question their families were asking as well, and even though we know that's just us beating ourselves up, we decided to create a full-time project.
The established charities are very, very wealthy, and there is an argument, is there not, to say that it shouldn't need someone like, you know, yourself and Lisa, etc.
I think the problem I've personally got with the hub and what we've done here is, even though it's really good to see it working, and, you know, it's clearly helped me and a lot of the people coming through the doors, you know, the flip side of that is I don't think we should have to exist. There should never have been a point in time when, you know, someone who's arguably a service user, you know, with a very credible and diagnosed mental health problem brought about by my service to this country, had to turn around and take matters into his own hands.
During the days we spent at the hub, we heard time and time again how it had saved lives. It is a place to come and share stories with people who know what it's like what it is like to go to war, and what it is like to suffer afterwards. For some, the hub is the only reason they can get out of bed in the morning.
I was in a mental health institute, I've been sectioned, and so I was cutting myself, you know, on my neck, or I cut my throat there, I'm trying to kill myself. And this was going on, it was like a big pattern. I'd get better for a bit, then I would go back into this. But because of where I am now, you know, at the Veterans Hub, they've sort of stood behind me through the whole, you know, from the bads and the good.
So why is it that in this one town alone, we found so many veterans struggling with life? We are told that the help is there, we are told that the money is there, and yet they are largely fending for themselves, and they cannot be the only ones.
Made homeless 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And I got had a bit of a bad turn a couple of weeks ago in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Jumped off a cliff. Yeah.
We went to North London in search of the answer, and an evening drop-in session for veterans. This monthly event is a chance for veterans to speak face-to-face with different military charities, all in the one room. It is also, importantly, an opportunity for the charities to talk to each other. Something, maybe, that they could do better.
You think there is good coordination, do you? You don't think there is just a wealth of charities, all with a lot of money, that don't necessarily talk to each other?
So at the local level, I think there's really good bilateral coordination between different veterans charities. But I do agree that on the national level, there is a lack of overall strategic coordination in how the veterans charities operate. There are some wonderful exceptions, but as a rule, as a whole, we are not collaborating as well as we could do.
Many veterans today have extremely complex problems: physical, mental, financial. Clearly, no one charity can fix them all. But if they don't work together, The veterans suffer alone. In the 17th century, there was no help at all for injured soldiers. The Royal Hospital, Chelsea, changed that. Charles II commissioned it, Sir Christopher Wren designed it, and the Chelsea pensioners still live here to this day, under an ethos as relevant now as it was 300 years ago. It is an example of veterans' care at its finest, and a good place to meet a man who heads up a charity born out of the most recent Afghan conflict.
Some people have got quite a lot of money. Others, like ourselves, we're running on what we raise. So it's a tough area.
I wanted to ask Ed Parker, as the chief executive of a charity, about reserve cash. It's sensible financial practice to have 6 to 12 months' income in reserve. But our data shows that some charities are sitting on much, much more than that, and it's money just gathering dust.
I've looked at our figures, and you can see quite clearly that some charities are sitting on large pots of reserve cash. And I've spoken to veterans who've said they've tried on multiple occasions to take their own life because the help is not there or they can't find the help. And to me, that does appear scandalous.
Yeah, it is. And if an individual reaches out for help, they should get it. And if an organisation is unable to provide it to that individual, there will be another one that can. And one should never just say no. And if it does happen, it's simply a failure.
Most people who do reach out for help get it. But if we can meet half a dozen or so veterans in just one town who say that they aren't receiving the support that they need, then you wonder how many there are like that across the entire country. After all, their stories speak for themselves.